We've got a blockbuster trade proposal to break down today involving the Portland Trail Blazers sending young star guard Anfernee Simons to the Boston Celtics. I'll be breaking that down, and also a massive Malcolm Brogdon injury update indicating that he will be ready for the start of the season. So you're going to want to stick around for this edition of Celtics Digest. But before we get into those topics, I want to talk about an ex-Celtic dominating at the FIBA World Cup. And by the way, as we get into this, a quick reminder to hit subscribe. If you're one of the hundreds of people, one of the 95% of people that are watching these videos that are not subscribed and you like it, hit the button now if it's still red. You won't regret it. But yeah, ex-Celtic dominates at FIBA World Cup. And who is it? Well, it's none other than Tremont Waters. Now, I know Tremont Waters isn't exactly the definition of a Celtics legend, but he kind of is in a way, right? He represents the short kings, 5'10" listed, probably shorter than that barefoot. And while he played less than 50 games for the Celtics, a lot of Celtics fans have a bit of a soft spot for him because he's fun to watch, right? A short guy playing the way he did at the NBA level. But look at what he did in Team Puerto Rico's win over the Dominican Republic, which is a bit of an upset considering the Dominican Republic has Cat. But Tremont Waters in 36 minutes put up 37 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds, and 4 steals. Now, what I love about these international tournaments is that unheralded guys that maybe aren't superstars at the NBA level, really get to show their skill. No matter how tall you are, how short you are, whatever, if you're given the chance to run your team, you really can make it work. And we've seen that, like with the likes of Patty Mills, right? The Olympic Patty Mills is crazy. He's like a 6-foot guard in the NBA who's had a great NBA career, average probably like 12 points a game over his career. But in the Olympics, he's a different animal. And even in this World Cup now, as he's aging, Josh Giddey is taking over. But still, Tremont Waters, to be 5'10", even in international competition, you're going against a team in the Dominican Republic that is not bad. Yes, Al Horford is not playing. We know that, right? But Karl-Anthony Towns is playing, and that team was favored to win this game, I would say. But Team Puerto Rico pulls it off with Tremont Waters having one of the biggest performances ever. And let me know in the comments what you think of Tremont Waters, because also 7 rebounds as a 5'10" guard, no matter the level of competition, that is incredibly impressive. And just wanted to bring that up because I know a lot of Celtics fans, if you guys are like me, you kind of love seeing short guys like this, especially ex-Celtics, being able to put up performances. So shout out to you, Tremont. But now let's get into the real news today. That's not Tremont Waters. We're going to dive into this Malcolm Brogdon injury update. Now, if you guys have been keeping track, Malcolm Brogdon, of course, after being 6th man of the year, he really played well for the Celtics, but was injured a bit in the playoffs. And there have been lots of rumors, including rumors covered on this channel, saying that he might miss a significant portion of next season. A lot of people like Brian Windhorst and different analysts saying, like, he could be out 6 to 8 months, and as we've said on this channel, we're preparing for him to miss a huge chunk of the season, but that might not be the case. In a recent article, they kind of talked about how Malcolm Brogdon will be healthy enough for camp. The team is insistent publicly and privately that Malcolm Brogdon will be healthy enough for camp. Now, the problem is Joe Mazzulla still signaled that rebuilding the relationship is a work in progress after the failed trade and all of this, but they say that getting back on the court should help heal some of those wounds. And look, we know that Malcolm Brogdon is one of the most mature players in the NBA. At least he comes across that way, right? He doesn't get the nickname of the president for nothing. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's smart. He knows it's a business, but he's also allowed to have his feelings hurt. You know, the Celtics, after he was so dominant for them, they wanted to ship him out to get Kristaps Porzingis. You know, that would probably hurt your feelings, but at the same time, he is a key piece to this team right now. And while he's been circulating in other trade rumors, which we'll get into in a few minutes, he's still, for now, a Boston Celtic. But the main thing about this, regardless of the, whole reports that, oh, he's unhappy, this and that, like, kind of underrated in this article, like, they said he'll be ready for camp, right? With all of these rumors saying that he's going to be out for a chunk of the season, to see someone finally say, no, he'll be healthy. He'll be healthy for camp. That's incredible. I mean, training camp isn't even the regular season. If he's healthy enough to go to training camp, he should be healthy enough to start the season. And if Malcolm Brogdon gets a fully healthy season for Boston, we don't even necessarily need that, right? If Payton Pritchard can step up and be the backup for Derrick White, or maybe the Celtics bring in another guard, whatever, that's fine. We just want Malcolm healthy for the playoffs. But again, having him on your roster in the regular season, in what's probably going to be a very highly contested Eastern Conference this year, the Boston Celtics want to fight for that number 1 seed. They're probably going to want Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench for a good chunk of the season. But where's that trade-off, right? If he's going to be healthy enough for camp, you don't want to rush him. That's the last thing you want to do. A guy who has a pretty brutal injury history, you don't want to rush him into playing. You don't want to aggravate an injury so that he's not healthy down the stretch for these crucial games. to put you up higher in the standings or even in the playoffs themselves, right? So hopefully, if he's healthy for camp, they can keep him healthy for the whole regular season. But yeah, this is just awesome, awesome news to hear, especially after all these rumors. So yeah, really, really happy to hear that. But let's get into in my opinion, the most interesting topic of this video, and that's this crazy mock trade that I came across today looking around. And we've heard a lot of rumors about the Boston Celtics trading with the Portland Trail Blazers, but almost all of those have been surrounding Damian Lillard. Of course, he asked for a trade out of Portland. Miami's probably the number one target, but Boston has been in the conversation. Jayson Tatum has called them, yada, yada. But what about Anfernee Simons? If you're at the Trailblazers right now, you have a nice young core. You have Scoot Henderson. You have Shaedon Sharpe. You have Anfernee Simons. Sharpe can probably play the three. That could be your 1 through number 3 in the future. But if they can't work out a trade for Lillard and they just have to maximize what they have with him and they're like, maybe we just kind of rebuild, we have Scoot and Shaedon, we kind of just jump into this rebuild now, could trading Simons, who's a little bit older, maybe help them accelerate that? So here is the move. The trade proposal is the Boston Celtics trading away Malcolm Brogdon, Payton Pritchard, a 2025 first and a 2027 first for Anfernee Simons. Now they say, like, if you're a rebuilding team like the Blazers, do you prioritize young players or draft capital? Do they want to start from scratch or stay relevant? That's kind of Portland's choice, and they could keep him, right? They could very well keep him and run him with Scoot Henderson, and that could work very well, right? I mean, we saw him and Lillard could coexist last year, but if they really want to just fully dive into this rebuild, Scoot Henderson is their guard of the future, and I think that's kind of what a lot of people are thinking, right? Henderson projects to be better than Anfernee Simons, for sure. He's a bit bigger. He just seems to have more talent overall, but Simons is still very, very good. But if you want to buy into the rebuild now, you could sell Simons at a very, very high price point. 2 first-round picks plus Brogdon and Pritchard kind of allows you to stay relevant while also getting 2 great firsts for the future. So would the Celtics do this? I mean, I think so in a heartbeat. Anfernee Simons do I have that picture? There we go. He is very, very good. 21 points a game, 4 assists, 3 rebounds last year, 45 from the field, which is quite impressive, actually. And 38% from 3, 89% from the free throw line. I mean, all things indicate he'll be a career, above average 3-point shooter. 39% from 3 on his career already. But with that 89% free throw percentage, I mean, he's a great shooter. He's a great slasher. The only thing he kind of lacks is playmaking, because he plays almost more of a 2-guard style, but brings the ball up a lot. So he's kind of a combo guard, right? One of those. But would he be better than Malcolm Brogdon? I mean, Brogdon's definitely better defensively, and I don't think Anfernee Simons would want to come off the bench, but would you need him to? You could start Anfernee Simons, right? You could start Simons and bring Derrick White off the bench, or you could start them both. Simons, Derrick White, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Kristaps, Porzingis, and then you bring Al Horford and Robert Williams off the bench, which would also be an amazing option. So I think the Celtics do this in a heartbeat, but the problem is, do the Blazers do it? And that all comes down to what the Blazers view their rebuild as, right? Again, just to rehash this, they're probably not going to keep Lillard. Lillard is essentially gone. So do you trade Simons at this point when he has a very high trade value because you have young guys in Scoot Henderson, in Shaedon Sharpe? If you can get multiple firsts and a guy like Malcolm Brogdon who can help mentor those young guys now and just kind of buy into Henderson and Sharpe being the future, and maybe you don't think Simons is your number one guy heading forward and you just get as much as you can for him, I don't know. I personally don't think the Blazers would do this trade. I just don't think it's quite enough for them to part ways with Simons. I mean, we've seen the trade price for players go up and up and up and up. And if I'm the Blazers, I don't know if Brogdon really moves the needle, especially if you're going into a rebuild. Yeah, the mentorship level, he's still a very good player, but I don't know if they're like, oh yeah, we really, really want him. It'd be more about the firsts, and 2 first-round picks from Boston when Boston is planning to be a contender for years and years to come. I just don't think that necessarily moves the needle for the Blazers. But again, we don't know. Sometimes trade values are way higher than we think. Sometimes they're way lower than we think. But let me know in the comments what you think of this trade proposal. Would you like to see Anfernee Simons on the Boston Celtics? Because I certainly would. And if this trade came up, I think I'd do it in a heartbeat because he's super fun to watch, and I think he could really improve the team for the future. But that'll do it for this edition of Celtics Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 100 subs. We really appreciate the support you guys have been showing, and we hope it continues long into the future. I've been Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next one.